I'm going to call up the first of two features this evening. I happen to have in my hand here loads and loads of CC&D collection books, like 1,000 Words are the most recent one, Art is Not Meant to Be Touched, the very graphic tactile cover paintings, or the 20-year anniversary issue of CC&D, or Eric Bonholzer's, oh, aren't they cool, Fireworks Over Chicago, or the most recent, the first Amazon.com release of CC&D, which has cover art from our first feature this evening. I even asked he wrote something. Oh, sorry. And I asked him to sign it for me, so I got him to sign something for me. Ladies and gentlemen, this man has been a poet and a musician for a long enough time to make it be awesome. This man is from Leeds. He is from the UK, and we've even done session and audio recording together of us reading and writing each other's poems. And this man is worth listening to. Yes. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please give it up for us, Hardwick! Come on over here, Hardwick! I can't stop clapping.
No, don't stop clapping. You
don't stop
need
clapping.
To stop clapping. It's right. Well, I've just brought up all my worldly possessions here. Don't panic because I've got all this stuff here. I'm not going to read for a phenomenally long time. It's just that I'm not sure what I'm going to read. However, I think this is the fourth. This is the second time I've been here, and then a couple of times at the cafe before that. And I've always opened with something. For those of you who aren't expecting it, you may have noticed I'm not from round here. The accent. I may say more about that later on. Who knows? This is. I always start with something about visiting the States, because I've been doing this for about 12 years, I think, now. And just getting to somewhere else, you just these things flood in. And at risk of going on too long with the introduction before I get on with the poems, I would just like to say how wonderful everyone has been at the open mic. It's been tremendous, because, you know, you could have read the phone book. And I know you're all thinking, here's this sort of like, oh, this is a weird exotic accent. Is it Hugh Grant up there? And it's, but actually no, it's, because it's an entirely different regional accent. But I come here every year, and it's just like, you know, they're just talking to you in the supermarket. It's brilliant. I love the voices. A couple of years ago, I was in. I was here for about sort of 6 weeks or something like that. This is one of the poems that came out of it. There is, of course, an English reference in here, and it's a reference to the Winter of Discontent, which, if you're English, is the late 70s, when we had a lot of utility strikes, and we had to sort of get our candles ready and our oil lamps ready because the electricity would be off for a couple of days. Hooray for England.
Winter 79 in Chicago was like the worst ever. So
oh right. Well, actually, I think it was 78 in England. 79 was even worse because we voted in Margaret Thatcher, and it all went downhill from there. This was written in Michigan a couple of years ago, and it will be in my next book, which comes out after I've gone home. It's called Roadside, and it's got reference to the Winter of Discontent. A smoky bar, all the world's here in small measures, inscrutable strangers, blank behind neat labels. Svedka vanilla, no thanks. Buffalo Trace, that sounds worse. Last time I saw something the colour of Bombay sapphire, it was in a lamp during the winter of discontent. The staff look like athletes. Football or beach volleyball, depending. Cigarettes carry no warnings. Master crafted blend of only the finest hand-picked Turkish, like Bogart smoked, looking cool before he discovered cancer. The TV shows adverts with the sound turned down. It's some highway that led me here, straight and empty, barreling rain blind through ghost towns, chasing the white line from night to drink alone in a small town cheap hotel. How far are we from Chicago? Asks a woman at the bar. Halfway, answers the barman, not looking. Hooray! We've got that sort of thing that goes sort of, you know, you clap after every poem, so I have to read fewer because there's a bit of clapping going on. Because I haven't really planned this, I sort of came over. I've been up since, in your time, 10:30 last night, and I'm sort of fading a bit, and everything's getting a bit blurred. But I was walking by the Chicago Culture Center, I think it's called, and there's a cow outside. And I'm not sure, but I think it might be a remnant of cow parade. You may or may not correct me on that. There's something that's been around all over the world that is a bunch of cows that they put in places
a few years ago.
Painted them over,
Yes.
and it's brilliant, and I love it a lot. And then they go away, and there's generally one or two left. And it made me think of reading this poem from this wonderful book that I wrote. And, you know, and I'm pointing out that I've written this book, and I've got a couple of copies with me if anyone wants to buy one, because I have a transatlantic fare and a couple of hotels to pay for. You know, so if you want to offer me, you know, like about sort of $400 for one, but otherwise $6 will do. The first time I came across this phenomenon of the cow parade was in Belgium, and I didn't know what was going on, and suddenly it was all exciting and wonderful and everything. And there was a poem in my second book called Cow Parade Brussels, and then later on I came across one in Milan, and I wrote this one imaginatively called Cow Parade Milan, just about the fact that you sort of find them everywhere. And it's sort of about how life changes over years. Her eyes behold years. She has been waiting with flowers at the station door, remembering all I wished to forget. Meetings, mapped and lost, cities abandoned to unread guidebooks and closed albums. Not quite old friends, but familiar strangers, we reminisce of late night bars, narrow streets, the warmth of breath on winter nights, countless candles, firelight and strong dark chocolate. Her eyes know a past I've glimpsed in doorways in New York, Prague and other places, searched since we first met, yet her almost forgotten familiar face looks more to futures, mine to choose. And for a moment, here we are, free of cities, man and beast, beneath the timeless sun, as I drink her milk of less than human kindness, full, fresh, and unconditional. Where to go next? Because a couple of people have mentioned the Facebook. Well, I'm one of these people that checks it most days, and it's really good because how else would I know what my American, Australian, and sort of Belgian, whatever, friends' cats look like? However, there's something weird about it. This is called Status Update, and it's very new. I'm being followed by a dead girl. When she asked to be Facebook friends, she didn't say she was dead. She didn't, it wasn't in her likes or on her timeline. Her profile looked or looks alive. She never posts updates, but each year I'm reminded of her birthday. Always the same age. And each time I see her, I wish her eyes didn't look away, and that one day she'll turn to look at me. I did sort of email friends before coming over here to find out what the weather would be like, because it's
Who knows?
It's been pretty damn weird in the UK, and I believe it's been pretty damn weird here.
Yeah.
People have sent me lovely pictures of Lake Michigan looking like Fairy Castle, and whereas in England we have had the warmest winter on record.
So it's your fault.
Yeah, we just chucked it all over here. Just like but we don't want it anymore. It's like you can have it. So I was thinking about cold winters, and I thought I'd read this poem from my book, which is available as cheap as you like.
Buy his book.
By my book, yes. And this is about. I'd always had this idea that it would be lovely to live in the country, out in the middle of nowhere, and just surrounded by fields and cows and sheep and stuff. And I did that, and it was fucking horrible. And this is called Embers, about that year. That winter lasted long. Darkness slunk contemptuously late, haunting bare hedges. Breath hung in questions as lanes wheezed their fevered chill, and we, far across fields, far from all we knew, discovered fire. Though ours was not Promethean. Ours was scavenged mongrel fire, half a sack of charcoal uncovered in the shed, intense and spitting, soon gone. Treasured jewels of coal slipped from trucks and gleamed from verges, sodden logs, hissing smoke and little heat. As April came, we lived on Lenten fare, on pasta, potatoes, rice and cheap bread, waiting for ravenous winter to leave us be. I don't recall inevitable summer, but winter has never again gripped so unrelenting. That winter lasted long, longer than love, longer than fire, and even in these softer climes, hunched beneath my deepest breath, I taste cold embers and mildewed cottage walls. I got in at about sort of 1:30 today, and I got to my hotel just before 3, and I'd been sort of sat down for a long time, and I just wandered around the streets and went to, dropped into shops and started looking for things to buy for my wife to take home and all that sort of stuff you do. But I always go into Reckless Records and just do a quick flip through the racks, because music is my absolute passion. And one of those American icons of music, of course, the world over, is Bob Dylan. And I've written a lot of poems about Bob Dylan, who I still admire immensely in spite of everything. And this is written about the late 70s, when Dylan found God. And it's got that title, When Dylan Found God. When Dylan found God, I was drinking coffee, my teens ending, an Italian girlfriend smoking black cigarettes, watching snow gather on dirty windows. I was listening to a cheap radio, not thinking about darkness, not thinking about light, not thinking at all, except perhaps of tricks to perfect my casual scuffed insouciance. I was playing lazy pool in basements, dropping coins into jukeboxes, reading Tarantula on the road and the full curriculum of outsider chic in used paperbacks. I wasn't going to change my way of thinking or serve anybody. I was still looking for that freewheeling New York winter he'd left long ago in search of new meanings. So when I heard his slow train coming, I watched from the side of the track, nodded, ordered one more cup of coffee as he passed and once again left me behind. I think I've got time for about two more, I think. So I'm going to read things that I hadn't thought about beforehand. One of which moves on from Bob Dylan to nothing relating to Bob Dylan at all. And it's about, I'm very concerned, as I'm sure all right-thinking people are, about just where the hell we're going. And I was looking at a book that came out in 1946 in Britain. After the Second World War, there were a lot of books, and I've no idea if something the same happened in the US, which I'm sure it probably did. But there was suddenly a great flood of books about what a wonderful place we lived in and what we'd been through all that crap for 6 years. And it's very pertinent to me because, you know, my father was in the Navy and so on, and I've been thinking about him a lot because he died a few months ago. And there were all these books came out about natural history in Britain and about how we look at the country around us and what a wonderful place it is. And there was a book just called Butterflies that came out in 1946. And I was looking through it and I borrowed some phrases from that to think about how people looked at the natural world around them at that time and perhaps how things have changed. This is called A History of Butterfly Collecting. I once captured numbers of the black hair streak long ago. Long ago, a world after war, barely beyond childhood, the morning bright with life. By climbing into a tree and armed not with guns nor fear, I, innocent, reached unthinking of consequences, a soft breeze, prickling sweat on my concentrating brow, and captured numbers of the black hair streak with a net on a long pole. Long ago, I couldn't have known then, the world barely awake, blinking hope as I climbed an English tree, sweeping them off the leaves on a neighbouring oak, blinking in the morning light, innocent in a world after war, blinking, reaching, sweeping numbers of the black hair streak. I once captured numbers of the black hair streak long ago. I may add that very few of the specimens were worth keeping, so quickly did this insect damage itself on the wing. I think on that point, and I've sort of glanced at my watch, but I'm so tired now I don't even notice what it was last time I looked. where I'm probably on to the last poem, and I'd like to read the last poem in this fantastic book, which I would advise buying. And it's called The Seafarer's Return, and The Seafarer is one of the first ever poems written in the English language. It's written probably in the 9th century and written down in a manuscript that we know was passed to the to Exeter Cathedral Library in about 1075. So it's one of the earliest works in English, and it's very Christian because, of course, it was only monks that wrote things down at that time. And yet, reading it in this godless age in which we find ourselves, it's still about going the path that isn't necessarily the easiest because it's the most rewarding. And this is sort of about, well, it's about lots of things, but one of the things it's about is going to the place where the inspiration for art, poetry, whatever it may be, is found and coming out and hoping it was worth it. It's called The Seafarer's Return. My salt-caked sea chest is heavy with shells and stones gathered from empty beaches. Rough guides never mention such places. Dangerous tides deter all but the most determined. I've travelled alone, gleaning beauty from shores where seas had thrown silence upon silence upon silence, where forever hides in the glimmer of spray, where no gull glides on dead air and secrets remain unknown. At your door I stand, tongue-tied in weed, footsore with blistered palms and a distant stare, my shoulders stooped with the weight of my journey. I need more than I can ask, but first share these far-gathered gifts of shell and stone whose value resides in the grace of you alone. That's me finished, and what I want to do, I'm going to take a picture of this place from up here. Because no one does that.
I do it.
Because you get the light in your eyes, it's awesome.
And the other thing I'd like to say, just before I go away, and Janet just wants to sort of shut me off.
Praise you.
But I would like to say, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was in Chicago and I looked up on the internet where places were to go and read open mics. And on that first night, I met Janet and I met Robin, and what tremendous people they are and what brilliant work they do. And it's just great to be invited back and to sort of share in what they're doing every so often. And,
You are welcome.
Thank you very much.
I'm sitting here showing off, this is a book that you can't get, I don't think he has extra ones of that, so that's your problem. But the thing that was funny is that I had said that he had read some stuff of mine, and I read some of his, and I was going to do stuff with it, and some people in the Tennessee area, Nashville, thank you.
The music place.
And that music place in America, they actually took, this is what I thought was a riot. One of my poems, people know, called Everything Was Alive and Dying, and I say in the middle of it, I wake up from a dream, and I'm like, so tell me, Bob Dole, so tell me, Pat Buchanan, so tell me, Jesse Helms, if you woke up from that dream, and he read it, or he read parts of it, and of course he changed the names. Which was so awesome. And I think John is queuing something up to play it. He's like, not yet. So go on ahead. Wait, one, he's...
I had a dream the other night. Then I walked a little farther. And I walked deeper into the forest, managed to get away from the picnic tables and outhouses that lined the edges.
The roaring cars gave way to the rustling of tree branches, the crackling of fallen leaves under my step. When the wind tumbled through, it whistled and sang as it flew past the bark and leaves. And as I walked, I listened to the crack of dead branches under my feet, and I felt a branch against my shoulder. I looked up, and I could hear the trees speak to me, and they said, "Thank you for letting the endangered animals live here amongst us. We do think they're so pretty, and it would be a shame to see them go. And thank you for recycling paper, because you're saving us for just a little while longer. We've been on this planet for so long, embedded."
Yeah, cool. Very awesome. Now I was going to play something else, but thank you. I'm sorry. I'm like, you might as well be up here.
It's like being Lemmy here, isn't it?
But seriously, I mean, like, I'm sorry that I know it, and I'm like, you're reading it, and I'm like, thank you for being thank you for letting the endangered animals, and I'm like, I'll mouth it because I know the poem. I'm like, it doesn't sound like me, but that's awesome. I'm like, wait, I've got this thing, but I don't have you going, but I wish I could remember the people that you said, which I'm sure you don't remember.
I know there were members of the current not tremendously effective government we have in the United Kingdom. We're not like you here that have perfection of you know, representing the voice of everyone.
The voice of absolutely everyone,
yeah,
exactly.
You know,
I'm sure everyone here can attest to
because
these.
sadly we don't live up to those standards.
Well, anyway, I just thought I'd play that little bit of the DMJR connection with these people. That would be awesome. And sorry, no, I'm totally
You
done.
should do mine more often. Go with it.
Yeah.
The
What?
mine was wonderful.
Somebody else has said, well, if I had other recordings of other people reading my stuff and I happen to recognize it and can do it from memory. We do think they're so pretty, and it would be a shame to see them go. I'm like, I know those lines. I could just mouth that line. Anyway, that's enough of that because it wasn't about my poem, and that was about him doing stuff sampled with music from guys from Nashville.